Thank you for clicking on the video. You, like a lot of people, are lonely, isolated, and desiring a community, companionship, and a change to the world that promised you so much but kind of didn't deliver in many ways. In the last 10 years, a lot has changed since the advent of Facebook and our smartphones that just give us so much information. We're constantly inundated with news, often negative. It can feel really overwhelming. And it feels like often we don't have any agency to change it. And in many ways, we don't. Voting often seems like it doesn't really do much. And then so much of the world's problems seem above your understanding. And even maybe things are too complicated to understand in our, complicated and multifaceted geopolitical situations. Like, what's truly going on? Who's in control? Often we don't know. And people want a sense of community. They want a sense of they've got control over their lives. But I can't just tell you, oh, go and make friends, go and volunteer at a church, talk to someone at the bus stop. That doesn't really solve the problem because so much of our atomization, isolation, comes from the lack of social distrust. And we've seen that increasing over the last decade or so. And it just makes people fearful of the other. They don't want to go out. And this has been really compounded by COVID, where we were told to stay inside. And now we're finding it kind of difficult to leave. It's so easy to get Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Amazon packages. You don't have to go out. And when you don't have to go out, it makes it harder to want to go out and see friends and family and build communities. And then that reinforces itself where we're more divided than ever. Social media was designed, apparently, to bring people together. It's done the opposite, and people are finally realizing actually this division isn't really kind of working for the average person. It's very convenient for the people at the top because historically it's been divide and conquer that has been the dominant means of control of the elite. It's always been a tiny minority of people who've had such control over the media, over the news, the newspapers, and now it's social media and tech bros like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and Mark Andreessen. So the design is there. They know exactly what they're doing and they use it very well. They use it to smear people for being woke. They used it to smear people who are Muslim and people who are immigrants coming over on small boats, refugees, asylum seekers. And in some ways they're winning, but in many ways they're not. The average person doesn't care about trans people. Donald Trump knows this. Donald Trump said last year, a few years ago, people weren't interested in trans people. Now everyone cares about trans people. And he was right. I genuinely believe Donald Trump does not care about trans people. I think he lies a lot. I think he has fascistic tendencies. But he doesn't care about trans people. He's being told what to say about trans people, what to say about wokeness, what to say about immigrants. And it works. It works so well. It's such a potent weapon. And Goebbels knew how to excite people, how to get his message across. And he knew that emotion was the key way to get people riled up. You don't use rationality, you don't use evidence, you use fear. You whip up your communities, your nation to fear another. And us versus them. We're the good guys. We're the good Germans. They're the bad guys who need to be eradicated. And we're seeing this now in America with the change of trans people's sex on their passports. They are now being changed to the sex they were born with, not the gender they are ascribed to now. This is a form of transgenocide where the government is cracking down on how you identify. It's an anti freedom thing and deeply worrying for a lot of trans people and your average citizen in America, because once they go for trans people, they're coming for you next. And at the moment, we're debilitated, we're tired, we're exhausted. And historically, it's hard to fight back when people don't feel like they've got power and agency. It's a deep contradiction of we're told to solve our problems ourselves. If we're depressed, just go for a walk. Go for a walk in nature, take your antidepressants, do some exercise, take some vitamin B12, sorry, or vitamin D3. And this will help a little bit. But what are the wider forces that create depression? Often it is a disconnection from agency, broader communities, and a feeling that there's no hope for the future, no control over your life. You feel like you're a plastic bag in the wind. And self-help industry plays on this. The idea that if you just work hard, if you're an entrepreneur, you go out there, you hustle, you're, on Etsy, you're selling this, you're selling that, you're Bitcoin, things will be okay. But we know that the system is so much bigger than us. We know that, yeah, we can work hard, but it isn't always going to, end in success. And we are so divided now where there's two realities going on. You've got one reality where there's a small amount of people that are consolidating power, the wealth. They own the big companies, they own the banks, they own fossil fuel companies, pharmaceutical companies, tech companies that rule our lives. And they need to pay their fair share. They need to have more oversight, more regulation, more control over how they control our lives. And you have an alternative narrative saying, actually, it's a liberal elite in Hollywood, in mainstream media, that promotes immigration, open borders, transness, wokeness. And it's convincing to many. And I understand it in a way, because if you're not able to afford a house, cost of living's high, and you see wealthy people on TV, you see the mainstream media, and you see certain images of what's going on in the world. But you're not really shown who's in control. The 50 families in America, in the UK, sorry, that have 466 billion, and then how the bottom half of the UK population has the same. And in 10 years, 2035, they will have double that. 200 families will have double pretty much the wealth of Britain. It's incredibly depressing, the distance between the people at the bottom and the people at the top. And we don't talk about it. We don't talk about that. Never, no, ever. It's always like immigrants. Like, everything would be better if we had net migration, net immigration. Everything would be better if we cut public spending. Everything would be better if we got rid of trans ideology. Everything would be better if woke didn't exist. But I'm telling you now, it wouldn't. Because, again, abolitionists were annoying. The suffragettes were annoying. The civil rights movement was annoying, inconvenient, alienated a lot of people. These movements at the time were deeply unpopular. Do you think people wanted to get rid of slavery? Do you think they wanted women to have the vote? Do you think they wanted black people to be equal citizens to the white counterparts? No, they didn't. The same with the gay movement. The Iraq War in 2003 was an illegal war. There's a massive protest in London in March, and they ignored it. But we were vindicated on that. Now, the attitude is in the UK and America, very much an anti-war one, We don't want to go to war. And it took a while. It took 20 years to get to that. But these things do take time. All these movements, yes, they're annoying. Like Extinction Rebellion, Just Stop Oil. Yes, they're annoying. But I guarantee in 20, 30 years, these movements will be vindicated because they're on the side of science, justice, and actually helping people. And it's inconvenient to the fossil fuel companies. It's inconvenient to Rupert Murdoch that people are going against their interests. But we need to learn that. And I think we're going to be lonely and isolated until we realize who has all the money, the power, and such how they are just a tiny amount of people who have all the influence. And it's not a conspiracy. They're there. It's Elon Musk. It's Peter Thiel. It's Donald Trump, Mark Zuckerberg, his cronies that are taking over the American government. America has always been an oligarchy, but now it's becoming an obvious kleptocracy where they have absolute power. They're not beholden to anyone and they're above the law. And we need to fight back against the tech companies, fight back against the people who seek to divide us because we're more divided because of the people at the top, not because of immigrants, not because of trans people, not because of Muslims. They have control. They're controlling us like pawns. And we don't have to put up with it. And if you are feeling lonely, isolated, I want you to join our community. I have quite a diverse community in a way, from left, centrist to right. And I want you to question your own assumptions about who do you think really causes problems in your life? Like, who is the person or the influences that really make your life harder? Is it trans people? Probably not. Is it your immigrant neighbor? Statistically, no. It's probably the people who are in power and have all the money. So, on that note, hit the like button, and I'll see you next time.